So give me a minute, and I want to respond to Jacko's comment here. Jacko says, and I'm going to assume that he's being genuine when he says this. Why are people saying destroy Russia, etc.? Innocent citizens, children, babies, animals would all die, then the radiation would spread around the world. And what he's describing there is a nuclear confrontation with Russia. And he seems to be under the impression that the West is rabid for the destruction of Russia for this to happen. And that makes him a victim of Russian propaganda. Let's be honest. Before this war, whoever even thought about Russia? That's the whole problem. These people think that they're the center of the world, that they're a superpower, that they should have respect and be invited to every table. When really, what Vladimir Putin is the spoiled rich kid up the block whose father made all his money by stealing everything he could from everybody in the neighborhood. And he tortures animals for fun, and he thinks he's better than everybody. So nobody wants to play with him, no matter how good his toys are. So please, for years, decades after the fall of the Soviet Union, we welcome these people into the WTO. We welcome them into the international community. We treated them as if they could be partners in a post-World War II prosperity. They can't be, because for 30 years they have done nothing but try to take advantage of all the benefits of Western civilization while stealing everything for themselves at the top, leaving their own people impoverished, and undermining Western civilization and the rules-based order at every turn that they possibly could. And when we dare to object, threaten us with nuclear war. Well, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And the reality is that we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. Nobody has to do a thing, because the Ukrainians are doing it all for us. So the very least that we can do is support Ukraine. But as far as Russia goes, ignore them. They're about to go away. Look, Putin's not going to use nukes. This thing is not going to escalate to nuclear. And if it does, well then, it will be the immediate end of what we think of as the Russian Federation. And freedom for 138 million Russians who are ruled over by the narcissistic, sadistic, brutal regime of the Russia United Party and Vladimir Putin. Make no mistake, there's only 2 million people in that country with any power and money. And they all live in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And they treat their people like property. You're right. Nobody in the West wants those babies, those children, those citizens of Russia to die. That's why we sent them so much food when the USSR collapsed and they couldn't feed themselves. And that food, too, the bastards at the top stole and sold and put in their pockets. So we have done what we could. We in the West have completely failed to understand the Russian mindset, the Russian mentality, and frankly, the Russian people. We don't get it. And everything we've done has failed. The Ukrainians know them. We got to leave it to the Ukrainians. We got to trust the Ukrainians. But this kind of nonsense of blaming the West, blaming us, saying that we're calling for the destruction of Russia, there's nobody doing more to try to keep the Russian Federation together right now than Washington, D.C. Washington is scared shitless of the power vacuum that will be left behind when Vladimir Putin bites the dust, as he eventually will, regardless of what happens in Ukraine. The guy is not a god, he's not immortal, and he will eventually succumb to the final act of shuffling off this mortal coil that we all do. And we have to be prepared for that, because his replacement is bound to be worse. and far more likely to try to put his finger on the nuclear button. But the idea that the West is calling for this destruction is nonsense. If you believe this, you are not a free thinker. You are not a liberal leftist who cares about all the children and are thinking about the children in Russia. You've been socially engineered by our enemies to take their side. Fucking stop it. Grow up.